on my paranormal group and on my Roswell ET conventions. All right, back to you, Ronnie.
All right, thank you, Teresa. I know I've been burning through the stories, but it just it takes so long to tell it. It takes so long to tell it. It's hard to get it all in there. So I get on the roll. I just try to get it all out there so I don't forget anything. But I was sitting there, and like I said, I'd got some pictures of this thing, and then it blinked out, and it went off out there, and I didn't know where it went, but I was still suspicious that it was out there. And finally, the lights came back on. It was on the ground. It was on the ground out there about a quarter mile out from me. And I thought, well, I clicked on this video, had this thing on video, and I thought, well, if I video it, maybe we could see something through the trees walking around on the ground. So I started the video on this thing. And all of a sudden, this thing leapfrogged like 200 yards up in the air and back down to the ground. And it sit on the ground for just a second. And then this thing shot up in the air, and it was turning yellow and green and red and blue. And it traveled. It traveled every bit of a mile, and it took about 2 seconds to go 1 mile. And it had making those lights the whole time. And I caught that whole thing on video on that phone. And I was like, my God, I can't believe I just caught that on video. It was perfect timing. I just started the video when it did that odd stuff, and the camera was running. And sure enough, it's at the very bottom of the video. But I had caught this thing doing this little leapfrog jump and then taking off. And I play with rockets. I know my fastest rocket travels about a mile in about 3 seconds, and this thing traveled about a mile in 2 seconds. So that told me that within 2 seconds, this thing hit a speed of over 1,000 miles per hour. And there ain't a whole lot of stuff out there that can do that quietly like this thing did. And I actually caught it right there on video. And this is the same crap that's going to come back in on me. I'm sitting there, and this thing, it disappeared, and all of a sudden it appeared back over the field again a little bit later, and this time this thing started moving right at me. It started coming straight at me, and it was getting too close for comfort now. I could see it blackening out the stars overhead. There was a dish-shaped blackness that was moving in front of the stars, and this thing was getting closer and closer, and I was going, oh, man, at some point it's time to get the heck out of here, and this thing is coming straight at me. And all I know is I was ready to run, and my knees, I got so scared when I looked up, and the edge of that disc blocking at the stars right over the top of my head, and my knees started shaking so bad that I could barely even pull off a walk, much less run through the forest like I wanted to. And I just waddled down them stairs, and I hid over behind this tanks of the storage tanks. And I'm looking between these tanks up at this thing, and all of a sudden I could see the lights inside this compartment that was hanging underneath the disc, and I was going, oh my God, man, what's going to happen to me? And I started thinking, this thing shoots these tanks. I've been loading crude oil. These tanks suck fresh oxygen in these things that makes them extremely flammable. This whole place is going to go up like a bomb if some kind of spark or static gets in these tanks. And I realized, oh my God, one shot with a laser or something like that to these tanks, and the whole place is going to blow up. Me, the truck, everything. And so I started backing away from these tanks, and my knees are still shaking so bad I could barely pull off a walk. And I moved a little ways over, hide behind this metal steel separator, and I'm peering around this thing, looking up at this UFO, this disc compartment underneath this thing. This big white light comes on inside it, and there's a shadow of something standing in the light, like there's something looking out of this compartment. And I'm just scared to death, and I'm looking, and I hide behind this separator, open, they don't see me. And I look around, and I see how dark it is around that place, and I'm thinking, oh, man, there's something with slimy hands fixing to come running at me through the dark. It's quite entertaining to watch this, sci-fi horror movies. But I guarantee you, living a sci-fi horror, being in a situation like this is not fun, man. My heart is beating out of my chest. My knees are shaking. I can't even run if I wanted to. And I'm thinking clearly. I just having trouble moving my knees. But I look around this thing, and I thought, man, I need to get a picture. Really need to get a picture of this thing. So I pull my phone out. I lean around this metal separator. And I take one picture, and I don't even look at the display to see if I just point it at this thing. It's big enough and it's close enough. I know I can catch it without doing much aiming. So I didn't want these guys to see me. So I just I leaned around that corner until I got the camera pointed at this thing, and I pushed one picture, and I got that picture. And you could see, we zoomed in on that picture, you could see a creature of some sort. And it's got huge eyes. And it's got short hair, and this turns out to be the alien that I would later meet in August 2017. So this is 2011. I actually got a picture of the alien I would meet 6 years later, and she looked just like she did in that picture, and it was. And I was happy that I caught this thing, but it was scared to death at the same time. This thing finally it started backing away. The lights went out. It started backing away, and I could see a military jet coming. This thing backed away about 100 yards out there, and then the lights just went out on it. And here comes this military jet, and this thing is low enough to the ground. It passes right over the top of the tank battery that I was hiding behind. I mean, I looked up, I could see it looked like an F-16. It went right over that top of the tanks. Maybe not that high up either. And it should have collided with the thing. It should have collided with it, I thought. I thought, man, I'm fixing to see a battle between a jet and a UFO. And the jet just went out there, and it made a big sweeping circle, and then it headed back towards the Abilene Dice Air Force Base. And I thought, this jet wasn't even out of sight. I could still see the red light on the tail of it as it was going out of sight. And then the UFO light came back on over the field out there. And I was like, the UFO's still there. The jet didn't see it. It didn't collide with it. They didn't have a firefight. And the jet's still in sight and leaving, and this UFO comes back on out there, right, not far from the same area that I've last seen it, So it was like, it hit from that jet like it wasn't nothing. And that jet headed away, and finally the UFO it backed away. The lights went out on it. And I didn't see it for a little while. I noticed there's a grouping of lights above my head that was doing this big circle around the whole location. And this thing was it was probably doing a circle around my area, probably for 10.
Hey, Ronnie, if you can hear me, you dropped off a couple of times. Wasn't too bad for a couple of seconds. I can't hear you right now, and it's not my equipment, so it's on your end. But he did tell me occasionally they have trouble in Texas. Can you hear me, Ronnie? Ronnie, he's going to call back in, y'all, so hold on just a minute. And while I'm waiting on him, let's see. Okay, this is TJ Morris ET Radio is the brand, and I use all kind of resources out there. So I want to give a shout out to iTunes and which is Apple, I guess now, and Stitcher and Spreaker and Spotify and Crowdcast and Blueberry. Let's see what else. Bean Pod. Bean Quest, I don't know, Beans this and that, FM radio. Oh my gosh, I am so syndicated and I pay extra. Now, most of those I don't have to pay, but if they do, now some of them I do, and I've got about $100 a month going out to Spreaker, but I've got 2 channels out there if y'all want to hear me on Spreaker. But I'm waiting on I'm doing audio books to help people get their stories out there. So if you've got a story and you want to join our club, we're doing audio books. We've got a discount club, but I have Ascension Center Organization and I have American Communications Online. So Janet helps me with ascensioncenter.net for our Ascension type of metaphysical. We have Ace Metaphysical Institute, and I've been asked to help Edgar Casey group here in Gulf Breeze to set them up a chapter. So I'm working with 2 ladies on that, and then we have meetup groups, paranormal, physical meetup groups. And I pay about $25 a month on meetup groups, but I'm working now. We've got some other little podcasters starting to show up because they're getting really popular. Even one here, 2 Drinks and something on one of these that I'm on too. So here from Gulf Breeze, what was her name? Was it Veronica? But she wanted me to come on her show for Paranormal. They do a paranormal show, so shout out for her. 2 Drinks and a something on some of these other stations I'm on, and she just started. She's new out of Gulf Breeze, and let's see. I need to talk about Marsha Booster Haney here in Gulf Breeze, and we do a couple of psychic fairs every 6 months. For where my daughter works at Navarre Conference Center for the Patels, and here in Florida, and they've got several days in, and they've got the Days in Navarre Conference Center, and my daughter helps there. The ladies, there's about 5 ladies that run the for Mr. Patel's family in Days in Navarre. So, and we do work with India. Because I love people from India because I have a past life there. I'm waiting on you, Ronnie. I see the call dropped, but you ain't got on yet. So, and this here is going to be the way we talk, and we're going to express. A lot of us truck drivers from the South are all over because I drove all 48, Canada and Mexico. This was pre-Trump days, it was during the Reagan era. In Bush, and Janet liked over there in Hawaii. She came over there when I was working with Clintons and Al Gore for Eco Expo, and we're independents because we do radio. Okay, Revolution may be a little right wing because Mike Ringley was a hawk. And Janet may be a little left wing because she does Aquarian radio, New Age hippie stuff with her husband, Dr. Alexander Sasha lessons. So they're definite bona fide Democrats. And the right wing, Mad Painter, Revolution Radio with Hawk. And I'm in the middle. I'm the independent. And I don't take sides, and I'm right here in the middle. But now my military people do. Are you coming back, Ronnie? Because you're not showing up yet. He must be having to rewire up another phone or something. But, folks, if you want to call in, 347-945-7207. And everybody that is watched me since 2012 knows I'm an author. So the girls love our spirituality shows. Actually, they put our psychic reading shows. So I have a new ACO Club person, Sherry Wyman Flynn out of California. And I want to big shout out to Robert Butwin, who's one of our ACO Club connectors. Robert Butwin in California. I have a lot of people in New York and California. And then me and my daughter had Atlanta Apparel Mart. Stephanie Parrish Salchier, she helps run a lot of my social media on Facebook. Real good about showing up for ACO Club News. And a whole bunch of people help me as admins in free social media out there. So y'all know who you are. And we have different groups on Facebook. And I tried some admins, but one girl that didn't use her real name, Chant Hannah, came on some of my Facebooks to grab them back 2 years ago and built her up a whole radio station with somebody else. And I didn't know that's what she was doing, but some other people in the UFO business asked me to look into her, so they know that's not her real name, and that's okay, I guess, now. But in the beginning, we still didn't know who she really was. So one of the girls that came on with me in my ACO club trained her on how to do social media admin stuff. And she was going to come on and do a show, but she had a big family in Ohio, but hopefully she's still out there in our social media, and she trained the girl that went by Chant Hannah. I think Chant may be her name, but Hannah wasn't her last name. But there you go, Chant, for UFO Sunday News. Because Jan Aldrich, she went on a panel a couple of times on that show on Sundays, but that's not us. That's just free people in social media on Facebook groups, some of our admins that have our UFO groups. And then let's see, Mutual UFO Network.